the decision that we're making right now is going to be very determinant about what's going to happen in 3 to 5 years. And we're not sure exactly what life is going to look like in 3 to 5 years. So good afternoon, Darius. How are you?
What's going on, Richard?
Thank you so much for having me. It's been, I'm sure it's been a day.
Oh man, things have not gone according to plan, but I'm here.
we get it done regardless. Yeah, amen.
Exactly. How you been?
I'm doing great. Just here where things have been kind of in a transition here. Just with some things, but just happy to just be kind of. It feels like you're going through turbulence in the airplane, and it's finally kind of like on calm seas. So that's kind of yeah.
Was there a lot of turbulence?
Yeah. like life is interesting, it's I figure I could figure and compare it to kind of like you're trying to venture out on a journey that you've never been on before, where the decision that we're making right now is going to be very determinant about what's going to happen in 3 to 5 years. And we're not sure exactly what life is going to look like in 3 to 5 years. So
Man,
trying to to navigate that has been a has been a process.
I imagine so, and that's talking from a man who has a family. You have a lot of other people depending on you, so I can
Amen.
only imagine the pressures that come with that. But I believe you got the grace to do it, right?
Amen. By the grace of God, faithful, faithful.
I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that, man. I'm glad to hear that. And I do apologize for sending you information late. This is my first time I actually have my own hosting somebody. I'm planning on doing this more going into my second year
Huh?
having my own social media platforms.
Yeah.
I've really just been focusing on starting the channel and getting going with it and being consistent,
Sure.
which sometimes is a challenge.
Yeah.
But overall, so going into my second year, I'm gonna have some different goals to be able to do this and be up and running, ready to go.
Absolutely. I think like something, and this is part of the transition that I've been going through. Is kind of like you go through the process, you see that you're able to there's people who are interested in what it is you're talking about. You know what I mean? And it's like not only to continue to produce content, but also to market it in a way where you can begin receiving revenue at the same point. So kind of like creating products, so I've been working a lot on that on the back end right now. After watching the success of the channel, I'm like, okay, so I have a blueprint that I know now can work. Now let's work on creating some of these products that when the time comes, you can help to solve some of these people's issues in the future.
No, that's the right mindset to have. That's one of the things I'm working on too. On the back end of this, as I learn this process, I guess you could say we both are, all of us, I'm sure, but we both are going through some processing, because one of the things when we first had our first meeting, that's one of the things I was telling you about. As far as years ago, my dad said, "Hey, you have power, you have media in your hand, use it."
Yes.
And we both know that the Bible says that your gift would make room for you.
Yes.
And I had it backwards. Even though I knew that, I don't think I gave the proper amount of time and consideration to what that meant. Instead of me trying to make things happen, I should have spent more time developing my gift so it could make room for me.
Yeah, I think in this changing world that we're seeing ourselves right now, I think that it's we are no longer just able to just show up and just have a just show up to any job and that be able to be sufficient for our lives. You know what I mean? Like, we have to be really intentional. And it's crazy that you say like most of us are you're getting to kind of almost midlife before you're realizing, hey, you know what? There's some things that I need to change. By the grace of God, we're able to make those decisions and make those changes. But I think many people who are listening to your channel, many people who are listening to other alternative means of news, they're realizing as well that that the things that I've been told, go to school, get a good job, is not really going to support.
Right. Oh, that's real talk. I'm glad you brought that point up. I know that's not on our topics per se, but we good. We are good. Like I said, from the get go, when we first hooked up, I was like, man, this is a match made right here.
I agree.
We just flow. We'll get to that list, but we'll just flow.
Mhm.
I'm glad you brought that point up because that's exactly how I've been feeling.
Mhm.
To go to school, get a good job, get a good education, get a job, and then retire at 65. Those days are gone.
Those are gone. Those
You
are gone.
know, and then I work in the banking industry,
Hmm.
and so at times when you see people come in, some business owners are not happy with the state of the economy and how it has affected people's businesses, and to the point, some people are very, very rightfully so upset
Yeah.
about how things have transpired over the last 3, 4 years
Mhm.
and how it's affected them, their family, their employees, and just people being affected. Period.
Mhm.
It's very out, and it's one thing for you to know
Mhm.
and sense and feel things. It's another thing when you hear it come from everybody else. So,
Mhm.
if in your line of work, do you? I know you talk a lot about finances.
Mhm.
So, in your line of work, have you seen any of those changes? Have you heard any of the feedback from people you come in contact with, family or outside of your family, that actually uh, has shared their grievances?
Sure, for sure. I think that the first thing is like the company I work for, right? So like part of the transition last year, I spent 7 or 8 years working in IT before, and last year, in the middle of work, my manager kept telling, he's like, we're having conversations about about laying people off. Like you guys need to make
Oh,
sure is make sure that you're buckling down and stuff like that. At the same time, with all of this implementation of artificial intelligence, with the more influx of people crossing the border, so there was words, and I've always been very sensitive to words spoken softly. I
mm-hmm,
think I think that those are generally those words are conversations that are had indoors that we're not available or privy to. So as I'm hearing that, I'm like, you know what? I'm comfortable right now, but who knows what tomorrow may bring? I have a relative who works at Google, who you would think would be perfectly set. They've been there for years. All of a sudden, there's angst waking up and going to work every day. They feel what's going on stock market. They feel the layoffs, and every single day, someone that they work with, they've been called into a room and they've been let go. So I think a lot of people are realizing it, but at the
uh,
same time, I think a lot of people are still asleep. Many people are just kind of putting their head in the sand. And
mm-hmm,
I've talked to a lot of my family, and I've told them the importance of acquiring assets. Like, as I'm not sure if you follow, but like things like Argentina, things like Venezuela, where the cost of living shot up like 300% at one point in time, and you see a lot of the influx of those people coming in here, but a lot of that is due to overstimulation of the economy. Where we currently are, we're heading to a place of hyperinflation as a country.
mm-hmm,
We're like right now, what we all see and feel about this recession that's coming, and
mm-hmm.
government. And if we thought anything that was done during COVID was a big deal, I think we're getting ready to see 3 to 4 times that amount of money pumped into the economy. And if we were concerned about 10% inflation, we're likely going to be at 20 or 25% inflation at some point coming up here in the future. The cost of living is going to continue to skyrocket. We're not producing enough homes. And then right now, because of all of the overproduction of apartments, where we're going to go through 2 3 years where we don't have enough apartment buildings being produced as well. So we're running into a serious meat grinder where the prices of everything's getting ready to be outrageous.
Wow. Wow. I saw one of your videos on that. Matter of fact, a few weeks ago when you had posted it talking about that, you
Hmm.
opened up my eyes to some things. Because again, I'm not, I have some basic knowledge of some of those things. I do follow some of
Sure.
those things, but I know other people have expertise in areas that I don't, and I don't pretend to be an expert. I'm just a concerned citizen.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Sure.
But you did produce a good video on that, and I believe I commented on that too. You're right. A lot of people's heads are in the sand. A
Yeah.
lot of people want to actually push this off and slide it under the bed or under the rug, acting like this is not real, like things are not happening.
Sure.
But we're definitely going or heading to a certain stage if certain things don't go take place,
Hmm.
if certain persons don't get into certain political offices
Yeah.
or a certain position. That by this time next year or beyond, we're gonna be we're gonna be in crisis mode.
We are, and the thing that's worrisome, right, is that like that there's basically like one big like so what's happened is that part of the funding that has benefited America, right, is that like the US dollar has been so strong around the world. So
Mm-hmm.
as you're as you're producing things, or you've basically become the lubrication for countries, right? So most countries don't trust China, they don't trust Russia. They're not going to give them, take their yuan and
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, I'll pay this back. Like China has proven themselves to not be very trustworthy in that manner. So the U.S. dollar has kind of been we've benefited from the world, it being the reserve currency. So around the world, and if Ghana has gold, and America wants to, or India wants to buy gold, they use dollars because that's the common currency.
Mm-hmm.
This overstimulation has caused those people to realize that at some point America will not be able to pay those dollars. And then also the dollars that you have are becoming less valuable because of all of the overprinting that is being done. So
Mm-hmm.
what many countries are doing, so China, Japan, Russia are some of the largest buyers of US debt. So as you're buying debt, you're able to fund a lot of the things that we're doing here at the house at home. Those countries are now selling that debt. So now, instead of us having additional money to kind of fund and to make things smoother, the only real buyer we have is the Federal Reserve. So as the Federal Reserve purchases, that creates an inflationary environment where the goods of cheaper things are no longer being able to be directly sent into America. And then while America is very rich in natural resources, we have a lot of red tape that is up and that is going up. We see that with the Keystone Pipeline that happened and all these different scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Things that naturally are on the North American continent are being taped off and basically being said, don't touch this. So as these things are becoming more and more expensive, as the cost of energy is rising, we're seeing the effects of that. We're seeing the cost of cars, while they're dropping right now, there's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a cutoff because the U.S. auto industry is in such a bad shape right now. The cost of cars was so outrageous. Many people are overstretched in terms of their finances, so no one's able to buy vehicles. So you're having cars just sit and pile up right now. So if you're interested in buying a used car or something like that, it's probably be a good time for you to look into that. But for the most part, we're facing a very difficult circumstances over the next 10 years or 20 years here in America.
Man, you're plethora of knowledge. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
First of all, let's do some housekeeping real quick. Everybody, welcome to Real Talk with Darius. I'm Darius, your host. For the first time, the gentleman who invited me on his channel, the first person who reached out to me, his name is Richard Harmon, of Journey to Harmony. You need to give his channel a like or check it out. I have some wonderful content on there. Check it out, and please give him a subscribe. He and I have become very close friends. I feel like we are brothers of a different mother, of another mother.
It's so funny. It's so funny because like my personal circle is like my cousins, my brothers have all become people who like have either denied the truth or just kind of like they don't subscribe to the things that I believe for the most part. So I'm looking for people who are like-minded, who are also in the mix of the news currently. So I have like, my father's very big, my brother's very big, but they've both kind of like stepped away from what's happening. So anytime I have any information now, I'm sending it to you. I'm like, yo, did you see this? Did you see this?
Yeah, brother, hook me up. we can blow each other's phones up. I appreciate that because I feel the same way, and to a certain extent, some information. Mostly my hunger and passion for the real world.
Sure.
For the news, for things that are what people call conspiracy theories, all that kind of stuff. For truth, I just say it that way. It came from my dad. So me and my dad talk a lot. And I have another friend of mine. He and I brothers too. He's like, we're brothers too. And him and I text almost every day, sending each other stuff. So, but if you want me to, I'll throw you in that mix too. You have a family, so I try to be respectful of that. But if you want me to send you stuff and we just continue to share, let's do it. I'm all for it because we live in a day and age right now where there's, like you said, there's not that many people awake. People are waking up at certain different levels. I've noticed everybody has different trigger points.
Yes.
And so realizing that once I find someone has a trigger point that's been hit, then that's an opening for me.
Sure.
Other than that, when things are kosher, people don't like to listen. They don't want to talk about it. They want to act like they just want to live their day-to-day life. And so I've had to, and I mean this in a nice way, but I have had to back away from some people.
Yeah.
And stop sharing information. Because you got to respect that. But however, just because you don't talk about it doesn't mean it's not relevant.
Sure. Absolutely. I think it equates to our lives as believers as well, right? So Jesus, when he went out, he spoke, he says, he told his disciples, he says that to you the truth has been given, but to others I speak to them in parables. Um
Right.
all the same way, like you said, the trigger points. I think that the migrant situation, illegal immigration, has become a serious trigger point to a lot of people. And many people who were once just kind of asleep, you can manipulate gas prices by the petroleum gas reserve.
Hmm.
You can't hide 10 million people. You know what I mean? When,
Right.
when you see your food stamp card go from $2,000 a month, and then now you're being told you only get $500. Those are real life effects that are happening to people. Many
Right.
people I go in different places are talking about how many of these migrants are getting $10,000, $15,000. They're getting in California. They're offering right now no down payment, no mortgage payment loans to houses. Uh,
Uh-huh.
$1 million property is basically just being given away right now to those.
Wow.
And right now, right, everyone's talking about a $25,000 down payment. The term that people are not hearing is that it's to first time home buyers who have not had a home in their family. As you look at that, that it likely and very closely equates to people who have just come across the border. You never had a home in your family.
Right.
Yeah.
So so you saying that applies more to the immigrant than us?
The wording of it. So we're hearing $25,000 for first time home buyers.
Hmm.
What the wording says is first time home buyers who have not had a home in their family. And most people at some point, whether it's 2009 or it's currently, most people in their family have had some kind of house passed down through their generation. So they're getting in. They're telling you, hey, we're going to offer you this. At the same time, there's no supply coming in at the entry level home. Um,
Hmm.
no, there's no talk about building out those particular situations. We're kind of at max capacity for the most part right now, and there's no additional electricians that are coming to the field. There's no additional plumbers at scale that are coming to the field. So while these things are being offered, well, what you're basically doing is increasing demand while constricting supply. The more demand that goes out, the more people are going to realize I can't afford to buy anything, and they're going to pull back. And then the houses that are available are going to be reduced, and the amount of people who are interested in buying, as the Federal Reserve lowers rates, every time they lower the rate, I think 0.5 or 0.25 or something like that, you add an additional 2 million people who can potentially buy. There's only 1 million homes on the market right now. So if you lower the rate from 6% down to 4%, you've added an additional 8 to 10 million people while reducing the supply by 1 million. So now you have 8 million people fighting for 500,000 homes. So that's a potential disaster that's being prepared right now for the country.
So do you think this is intentional?
Do I think it's intentional? I do on some level. I also think that is a bit of lack of understanding. Like, consider, right? Most of the people who run our politics, or senators, governors, many of the representatives, are people who really never really had real world experience in terms of owning businesses, running
Hmm.
companies, or anything of the nature. So you're having people like graduate from college, and then they're going in as assistants to representatives, and then eventually becoming representatives. Those people then are writing bills that aren't really fixed in logic. Like any person who was sitting down, like right now, there's Kamala Harris is offering and proposing the price controls. Any person who follows history, they know for a fact price controls basically causes shortages and any kind of price control, because the cost of something, right? So say you say that you only sell cereal for $5, but because of the cost of labor
Hmm.
has gone up, your cost to produce that cereal is now $7. So now you're telling me I can only produce for $5. That means I'm losing money. Why
Hmm.
would I actively lose money just to sell something? So what happens is many of the manufacturers begin closing down, and as the manufacturers have been closing down, the prices again naturally rise because you have a lack of supply and demand. So in terms of, is this being intentional? I think it's both parts. I think there is forces behind that are moving and seeing what's happening. The overall investment in terms of Wall Street buying of homes. I think, think about it, right? Like Wall Street borrows money from the banks, The banks get the money from the Federal Reserve, who get their money from taxpayers. So taxpayers' money is being funded to push them out of homes right now. And I think, unfortunately, that's something that the big dollar investors have bought enough politicians that will likely not be able to be reversed in our lifetime.
Man, that's scary, dude. That is absolutely scary because it puts this man. That is absolutely scary. So you have so what does the taxpayer do? What you say is irreversible. So what would how would something like this change? How is there are there any laws that could be implemented or regulations that could be made that would actually at least impact that I don't even know what you call it, that law, that principle?
So part of the strategy of those who are in charge is to kind of keep us divided. So you have things, you have racism, you have all these different things that are
Mm-hmm.
being pushed. A lot of times, most people, I have a young son, and that kind of puts me in a position where I have to go to parks, I have to go and meet different parents as you're out there. And the more you meet people, the more you realize how similar many of you guys are. Some people may not have the same particular beliefs, but many people want the same things, right? They want a better life for themselves. They want to be able to produce for their family, to be able to enjoy the fruit of their labor. In terms of what can be done, unless there is a gathering of like-mindedness, right? Like in the Bible, it talks about the story of the Tower of Babel. And the Bible says God said, let us go down and see what is happening down there. And they
Mm-hmm.
said, unless we separate these people, they will be able to achieve whatever they put their minds to. So I think those who are in charge right now realize that if they decided, right, if Americans as a whole decided that what was happening is wrong, they could vote out whoever it is if we were all on the same page, and we can all get rid of all of this. So a lot of what's happening, right, is that these companies are going ahead and they're buying politicians, and the politicians are putting in laws and regulations that block access to fixing our problems. Right now, I think that as a whole, the American dream needs to be adjusted. I think what's many people are saying, when God speaks and the world agrees, that's a dangerous place to find ourselves if we're not prepared. Every single
Mm-hmm.
person is looking up and seeing and believing that there is a great depression that or something like it that is on its way, probably next 5 or 7 years. So when you see God speaking it and you see the world speaking it, we need to listen. And in order for us to get through a lot of that, if we're able to own land in mass, acre, 2 acres, produce
Mm-hmm.
food, and have just a little bit of income coming in, we're able to get around a lot of these particular issues.
Mm-hmm.
While it may still be something where the government may try to impose on you, for the most part, you're able to get through those circumstances because you're able to be self-sufficient in some way or another. Here in present time, living in near or around metro areas, everything that we get for the most part is from grocery stores. And we saw during COVID how the depletion of supply can happen almost overnight. People were fighting for tissue paper. People were fighting for
Yeah.
the beef was outrageous. I think being able right now to find these places, and right now many of these places are dirt cheap. You're able to go outside of a metro area, maybe an hour or two, and
Mm-hmm.
you buy 5 acres, 7 acres for $20,000, and take your time from there. So there are even options right now online. I can send you some of these things. You can
Please.
Huh? Yeah, you can have situations. Or some people may say, "I don't have $20,000." They're doing many of these places are doing owner financing right now. So you go out, you put out $2,000 down, and you pay $300 per month moving forward, and they'll just pay in no credit checks, no anything. You just pay $300 per month from there. You sign your contracts. So I'm thinking right now is that we who are serious, and it's not for everyone. The Bible talks about it again and again. A remnant will be saved. For those who see themselves as part of that remnant, we need to start preparing now, because for 5 to 7 years, you give yourself time to begin the planning, harvest, to know the process of it, and to be able to store up for that time period that is to come.
Man, I did not know he was going in this direction, but you're on top of it, brother. You definitely on top of it. I tell
Yeah,
you.
it's great.
Um, I do agree that we do need to start now. The
Yes.
mentality is different. I'll tell you some offline after recording stuff's done. But yeah, first of all, send me that information you're talking
Yeah,
about.
sure.
But definitely, I do believe that the body of Christ. One of the things my pastors teach, guys, my pastor teaches it's having to do with connecting with the Holy Spirit. Number one,
Sure.
having a solid relationship with God, because that's where our peace of mind and security is going to come from. And then also God ideas. The Holy Spirit will give us ideas, teach us, lead us where we need to go. Secondly, then we need to do our other due diligence, which is to prepare, like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because God is going to, before Jesus passed away, before he was murdered, just call it what it is.
Yeah.
He told his disciples in the Matthew the 24th chapter, their end of the world did occur about, give or take, about 35, 40 years later in 70 AD. And so when Rome kicked them out, Julius Caesar had them kicked out of Rome. And so they destroyed the temple, all those things Jesus said was going to happen. So they had to make those preparations. Now, in our time, we've been taught, of course, that prophetic word was not just for them. It was for us now, the following generations.
Sure.
And so we do believe we live in the last days. I believe that wholeheartedly. I do believe that God has delayed some things. I think with the advent of President Trump's tenure, and I believe he's going to have a second one soon, that has delayed a lot of end of time, what we might call end of time events. But that also means God has given us a window of opportunity for the kingdom. So what we have to do, we have to take our necessary steps to prepare, store food, keep some cash on you, things like that, become more financially knowledgeable, become knowledgeable about an agrarian society, if you will, how to take care of yourself with the growing things naturally out of the ground, even though it's torn up because of all the chemtrails that have been placed in the past. But God has given us, and there are people out there who have been prepared for such a time as this, And so the question is how do we get in contact with people like that? How we, like you said, how do we come in contact with people of like-mindedness so that we can, instead of being divided and conquered, many of us, if not all of us, can unify and prepare for the coming, chaotic times. I don't want to necessarily profess it, but that's what it is. But for the coming chaotic times, the end of days type thing. I don't know how much of the tribulation we're going to see per se. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely a pre-trib person where I'm talking about we're not going to be here when the Antichrist actually comes on the scene. So I don't personally believe that. But regardless, we do know we don't want to be here when he does show. That means the Holy Spirit has been taken out, which he's called the one who resists or who holds back with the enemy. As a matter of fact, I was listening to a video on that just recently. I think it was earlier today, matter of fact, while I was working, where when the Holy Spirit, what's the right word for that, Richard? The Holy Spirit's called something. It's not the refrainer. Is it not? Is it the refrainer?
Yeah.
Okay. So the refrainer, when he's removed, that's when hell on earth. People talk about, they think they live in hell on earth. You might get some semblance of it. You might get some, you might taste some of the effects of that. But when you have the refrainer removed, what happens when you live in a society? There's no mercy, there's no compassion, there's no love. Hope is basically being washed out. What do you do then? And so what we want to do is prepare for those times because it's going to happen. Now, some of us may not make it to that particular day, but you can do what you can do. Make sure your family's taken care of if you have loved ones, your friends. And I have some of these, my conversations are limited. I know how you feel. My conversations are limited on how many people I can talk to and share about this type of things because a lot of believers are tired of the Jesus is coming, the rapture is going to take place in a moment type, scenarios and conversation. I get it. To a certain extent, I do get it because sometimes you do get tired of talking about the same old thing and nothing happens. However, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
And so this is why it's more important to get it's one thing my pastor's talking about also is kingdom mindedness. And I was talking to another friend of mine yesterday about that. We have to, and I'm starting to learn more and more about a kingdom mindset because everything we're talking about has to do with what we're experiencing. We're going to also talk about the DNC here in a moment. What we're talking about is basically living life. That's it. When you really break it down to its nuts and bolts, all of us want to live a life where we feel like it's intentional, it's purpose driven. We're able to take care of our loved ones. We're doing things that we love to do. We're not worried about our daily necessities, any of that stuff. We just want to know everything's fine and we can go. Nothing wrong with wanting that to happen. Nothing wrong with having that desire. But the problem is, unfortunately, we live in a world that is attacking that idea.
Sure. There's a few things you said in there, right? So, I think the first thing is in terms of us being believers. I think God, the Bible says that we should use our wealth to make friends. I think right now, like as I spoke to you about, purchasing land and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just I'm not focused solely on buying 2 acres of land. My thought process is I have people in my life who have not prepared at all.
Mm-hmm.
And as the prices, as we see them now, I think in 2 years or 3 years, we're going to look back and we're going to say, man, I wish I had bought my house for 400,000. I think that's how bad things are going, right? And my kind of when I look to go to look at land, I'm looking at can I get 40 acres? Can I get 50 acres type of thing where it's enough for me and it's enough for 20 or 30 other people that when everything goes crazy, instead of them going out and becoming homeless, you say, hey, listen, I've already been preparing. It's the same way how the Lord, he prepared the earth first and then he put man on the earth. So in the
Mm-hmm.
same way as I'm looking to kind of to prepare our family and our friends for such times as that, and moving forward in the future right now in terms of, you said you hope and you believe that President Trump is going to be reelected. I had a similar belief for the longest time as well, but I think also in the Bible and something that we as believers have to be upfront with is that
Mm-hmm.
there were times when the nations chose to not follow what the Lord was doing, where Israel decided that what, let it, as he said with Christ, let it be on us and our children's head, and I think after watching the DNC, after seeing the immense amount of increase in popularity that Kamala Harris has gotten, I
Mm-hmm.
think media has kind of overtaken Donald Trump and a lot of the momentum that he had coming out of the assassination attempt. And
Mm-hmm.
it almost feels like we as a nation have decided we're going to go down this route. And while God could intervene, we also know that it's against his nature to overtake the will of men. And as we, as a collective, have for the most part, like think about your circle, right? As much as we want to say that we believe we believe that this is possible,
Mm-hmm.
we generally are the minority in our groups, for
Yeah.
the sport. We,
Yeah.
we we generally are the minority, whether it's that you're the black community, you're the Spanish community, you are even the white community at this point right now. We are, for the most part, the white community may be kind of 50-50, but every other group is heavily leaning Democratic. And even though they know inside of them that this is not the right thing, they have been programmed so much that this is what they have to do. So as I'm looking at it right now and I'm seeing it, I'm more and more in my spirit, just like I hope this comes to pass and we have 4 more years of kind of of the refraining.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, when you look and you hear about what's going on in Denver, how the Venezuelan gang has taken over an entire apartment complex
Yeah.
and it pushed people out of there, and you see people are not talking about it as much, but the illegal immigration continues in the background of the country. You have China kind of preparing and putting forth their soldiers here in the country for the time when they're ready to strike. I think that
Mm-hmm.
there's just so many different things that are happening right now that we could hope that God can refrain it from happening. But I think at the same time, it's just there's so many different things that are pointing that are saying that likelihood is going to be a disappointment at this point coming up. So just preparing as best as we can for that. Like you said, like I'm not sure if your audience is familiar with treasury bills or treasury bonds, but looking for ways, like if you have a lump sum of money, right, you want to be able to create income that will provide for you. And I think many of us go to work because we don't have that particular income. So if you have $5,000, $10,000, the Federal Reserve will have different bills, right? So they have like, hey, listen, borrow me money for a month and I'll give you 5%. Borrow me money for 3 months and I'll give you 5%. So if you take, $10,000 and you give it to them for a month, they'll
Mm-hmm.
give you back $500 at the end of the month. You do that again and again, that's $6,000 at the end of the year that you're gaining back. If you have a larger sum of money, $20,000 by the end of a year, you almost don't need to go back to work. You just put that money in a treasury bill, you get at the end of the month, you pay your bills, $2,000, $3,000, and then put it back and get another $3,000 at the next month coming up. So I think, like you said, like in order for us to be able to survive, to grow, I think things like what you're building, communities that are bringing information, because not everyone is going to have the in-depth ability to take in some of the details of what is happening.
Mm.
But as we're able to explain it in our own way, people are able to gain that information and move from there.
Well said. Yeah, that yeah, definitely. As our both our channels grow, uh, some of the people some of my audience do um, like and enjoy, and that's definitely a point I make. I tell people we talk about relevant issues.
Yeah,
I have a little comedy here,
yeah,
because these are things that interest me, and I believe there are people out there who has a taste for, if not all of it, some of it.
sure.
But as people begin to see what happens in the financial markets,
Mm,
I know people, like what 2 weeks ago you had the stock market, for example, lose over 1,000 points, which is
sure,
trillions of dollars. I
sure,
mean, people freaked out over that.
sure.
Of course, that week it recovered, or so they say. But
Yeah,
but no, it's very important that people are informed about these things and then the decisions of them, and that's our job. And I agree with you on that, Richard. Our job is really just to present the information
mm,
and share our ideals.
mm,
There are people who are going to gravitate toward us, have and will be gravitating towards us. And I
mm,
think the season we're in is opening up and expanding.
sure.
Not to the level at the speed you or I would like,
Yeah,
but I think the next few months is going to definitely push some people. It's going to push you one way or the other for sure.
sure, absolutely. And I think, many people, people scream for to say crucify him before Christ died. And then after, after he Bible said he gave up his spirit, he says like the skies were blackened in the middle of the day. They said that the separation, the giant veil that separated the holiest of holies, says it was torn. That was something that was like the size of a cathedral. It was torn down the middle, and people realized, they said, truly this was the Son of God. I
Mhm.
think that in the situation, that if it is able to be pushed through, and that Kamala Harris is able to be elected as president, I think almost immediately people are going to realize, because for some reason people aren't connecting, right, is that democratic principles are also what make California and New York unattractive. But at the same time, they're still voting for those particular things.
And that don't
So
make any sense.
it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But people are still voting for those particular ideals. As you went to the Democratic National Convention, they had a giant contraceptive uh, air balloon outside of the space. They were giving free vasectomies and free abortions. The Bible, again, in Romans and all these different places, it talked about how there were sex rituals that were happening during
Mhm.
that time.
Right.
And what is basically being told is, come and destroy your children and have all of the immoral sex that you want. You can be able to sleep with whoever you want to and not worry about the consequences of it. But
Right.
but it's the same thing what's happening with these particular gender affirming things that are happening, is that once you go through with that process, you're 12 years old, you're telling kids at 12 years old that they can change their identity.
Mhm.
Once you come to the understanding of, we don't let 21-year-old kids drive tractor trailers, but we allow them to make the change, the configuration of their bodies. I think that
How's
is
that possible?
there's an intent that is destructive. We see that in terms of, the Bible says in Genesis 1, it says, be fruitful and multiply, have dominion over the earth.
Mhm.
Our calling is to add and reproduce.
Right.
And the devil desires for us not to reproduce, because
Right.
that's a direct contradiction of what the Lord has said. So as he's doing all of these things, it looks new, but it's all just very similar in terms of, the Bible talks about Molech and how children were sacrificed. This is just a replay of that, just in a different form.
Exactly. As Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun.
Amen.
I'm gonna say this and then there's more questions for you. Two things. One, I set my Zoom up to, like, I'm still learning this part, so you can
Uh-huh.
probably educate me on this. I set us up for an hour and a half, so around 5 o'clock is when the Zoom recording is supposed to end. So If you need more time, like we can do maybe the additional 30 minutes if that's good for you.
Sure. My family is going out for the day, so I'm just here.
You
Just
good?
however long we're here, I'm here. Yeah, so it's no
Okay.
problem.
So is there a way for me? I'm sorry, I should have asked you this earlier. Is there a way for me to extend it if it cuts off, or can I extend it while we're talking?
Um,
Do you know?
I don't. I think that like it'll cut off, so we can just like you just it'll form two different tapes, and
Hmm.
you, like if you would like to, you can release two different parts or chop it up however you want to do it from there. So
Okay, I'll do that. So y'all getting to see the raw me. I know y'all like that. Y'all like seeing authenticity. So hey, there we go.
yeah.
Um, Real quick on the Trump thing. I know a lot of people do hold that position, and I get it. I really do. When you was talking about it earlier, as far as whether or not he'll get in office, can Kamala win? No. Can they install her? Yes.
Yes, exactly.
And so, is it possible for her to win? I would say yes, from that particular standpoint, winning in quotations. But I personally believe, and you probably do too, but a lot of people, a lot of journalists said it, a lot of reporters, including Trump, said it, is that was a divine moment. God rescued that man. Remember, and unfortunately, there was a father and
Hmm.
a husband who lost his life
Sure,
in the aftermath. A couple other people who were shot.
sure.
Also, they were injured, but thank God they are recovering. But I don't believe God would spare Trump just for Trump to have another day with another rally.
Hmm.
And so, because we both know God is big picture thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. He's looking for maximum impact. All of it matters. I have my beliefs. Again, some of it I may share offline, but I have my reasons to believe as to why I think a Trump second term is coming. I've listened to other people who are more, maybe closer to the situation than I am. People who've been following the signs of the time, so to speak, both on the prophetic level as well as those on what I like to call a boots on the ground level.
Sure.
And there's just a lot of things when Trump left office in 2021, I just knew, Richard, I just felt, because I've followed Trump pre his political career.
Sure.
So there's certain things that did not sit right with me. And it wasn't just because I liked the guy or whatever. I said, something's not right about this. And so ever since then, because I didn't follow politics this closely as I am now, but for the last going on 4 years, 4 years plus, I have been following what's been going on. Sure. I've listened to him, listened to his speeches. I followed not all of them, but I've listened to a majority of his rally speeches. And again, with these other voices. And there's just something that tells me there's a certain level of certainty that although what we're seeing on the main screen could be a possibility, there's something else. It's like when you were talking earlier, I said, okay, this reminds me of the Red Sea moment. Children of Israel, they were backed up at the Red Sea. Moses goes to God. God says, why are you complaining to me? Go stretch out your hand, stretch out the rod over the sea.
Absolutely.
I believe we're in the process of, and this is what I've heard, so that's why I'm using this analogy, but I believe we're at the Red Sea moment leading up to the November election. Now, two things in my opinion is going to happen, and you can let me know what you think before we go on to my next question is this. Do you think that leading up to the election, that there's something that's going to cause the election to be suspended? Or do you think that we're going to have an election, but it's not going to look like any elections prior?
Great question. So, for one, I thought that this would have been implemented in 2020, right? So with COVID, they say don't say the C word on your channel or the or the YouTube boogeyman will come for you. But I thought that there was a chance where they would attempt to do that, but at the same time during that time period, President Trump was installed and in office, so it didn't make sense for them to try to run that play. At this point right now, like I'm not sure if you're following, but there's the Mpox that is going around the world right now.
Yes.
And there are different nations that are beginning to lock down and to talk about how they're going.
Wait. You said some nations have already started locking down?
They're restricting access to their airports, different things like that right now. So there is reason to believe, right? So there are different clauses in place where if something were to happen to God forbid, to the president, there's opportunities where the vice president can become the president elect and step into that place, right? And then
Mm,
in a situation that there is a war that is declared, in a situation that there is a crisis, some of these things can be suspended. And if that is the case, right? So say the many of the people who are on the right are saying we want to hear policy, but we see with Joe Biden, we see with Kamala Harris is that their strategy is to kind of run as long as they have to. If
right,
they never have to debate, they will never debate. Donald
right.
Trump is more confrontational, and he desires to be in the place where he's able to have your ideas wrestled with in the public square. And they're doing everything they can to not have those ideas be confronted. Just the idea of abortion, he's evil. That's it. That's all they want to say. So whether or not we could have a suspension of the democratic process in terms of voting. It's anything is possible.
Hmm.
At some point, I do expect maybe not this election, but at some point, I do expect that will be implemented. But again, in terms of this particular time frame, right? Most people, when they vote down ballot. You don't generally vote for Republican president and then a Democratic senator or and a Democratic, House Representative person. You generally vote one way. So generally, what's going to happen right now, if President Trump wins, we're going to have a Republican House and Congress. If
Hmm.
Harris wins, we're going to have a Democratic House and Congress.
Hmm.
And I think that either way, there's going to be a big swing. And the power grab, as we saw during the pandemic, about how they were trying their best to lock everyone down. I think we've already seen that this group is willing to go to endless bounds in terms of holding on to power.
Hmm.
Uh, even if it's before the election, right? Even if it's before the election, and the election happens and they lose, who says that there isn't a situation where they something happens and then they're able to try to push more of these particular things afterwards as well. So we haven't seen it in time past, but I think we're getting closer and closer to seeing some of these things be implemented, and I
Hmm.
think it's moving more towards, as they say, a banana boat republic, here in the country. So
Okay, so thank you for that. Very interesting. Very interesting.
mhm.
That is a lot there. That's a mouthful there because that, in other words, that could lead to martial law if
Yes,
some of
yes.
those events take place.
Absolutely, and part of it as well, right? Is like I think the Americans who are here, who are in the army, there's a lack of turning on your citizenry, right? So
Mm,
even if you were to the spirit of America is a rebellious spirit. Whether it's in the young people, it's in the army. It is something about us that wants to rebel. You tell someone no, they're going to do what it is you tell them not to do.
right.
So when if there was ever a rule or a law that was implemented that was put in place for armies to attack their citizens, there's something about being raised in the grounds of America that would stop many people from doing that. But
Right.
as in different parts of the West Coast, they're allowing illegal immigrants to become mayors. They're allowing them to become law enforcement. So as you're doing this, for those of us who do believe that there is some wicked intent in some of these things, if you are able to get a significant portion of people into the U.S. Army, now when you're ready to implement these rules, now you have people who are not connected to the soil, people who have not gone to public schools, people who have not had occurrences with you, people who are fighting for whatever it is that they're fighting for in terms of coming here, and they're able and willing to kind of put into effect that thought process of these people are bad. We see with that with the treatment of people who are kind of conservative and they're being called far right wingers. There's just people who naturally believe in while there's some people who may be further in terms of extremes, many people just believe in common sense and they're upset about it.
Hmm.
So for those who are coming in who may join the army, that they're being told and pumped by the media that these people are racist, they're communists, they're German Nazis. So when you're looking at it from that perspective, you're new to the country. You're just going to believe what the government tells you, what the news tells you, and you're going to be able to enforce whatever unjust rules that are being advised to you at that time.
which is very, very dangerous. I mean, when you are importing new voters,
Yes.
new militant minded people,
Yes.
especially a lot of the guys who are coming over, they keep talking about the women and the children, but the
Hmm.
truth of the matter is the majority is the men
Majority
who
of
are
men.
military age. When
Yes.
you bring in all these folks, you have what, over 30, I've heard the last numbers I've heard somewhere around 30 to 40,000 Chinese nationals,
Yes.
not including the Iranians, not including, we have what, over 100 and something different countries, nationalities represented in the U.S. that's come through the border. They just talked about the southern border, but
Sure.
what about the northern border?
Exactly. Exactly. And with that, I'm not sure if you follow what's going on in Canada, but Canada had an open door policy, and the average home, like what people we in America complain about homes being, the median home of a price of a home is $420,000 right now in America.
Uh,
The median price of a home um in Canada is $700,000. So their housing market is close to double ours because they have a smaller land mass in terms of area of living, and they just brought in so many different people, and then they had to put a hold in place because people from different nations were just buying houses and just reselling it for $150,000 more in 2 months. So they had to put a restriction on the purchasing of homes for a period of time. So as those places become too affordable, we're having people coming in from the southern border, but as well from the northern border as well.
uh,
You're coming in with a student visa, and you're like, this place is terrible. I might as well just go to America. You cross over into America, no one's expecting it, and now you're into the country. So I think it's like you said, that there's a the America has enjoyed the two Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean being protected spaces for so long. I think right now it's just no longer being the case, and we're seeing the kind of the infiltration slowly through those particular avenues.
exactly. So slow infiltration, invasion,
Yes.
obliteration.
Exactly. Exactly. And those are the steps, like you said, like it's all the more reason on why land purchase it. I don't have any investment. I'm not, trying to sell anyone anything, but I'm just telling, us of the ideas. The further out of the city you go, the more conservative areas that you go into. A lot of times when you're voting, inner cities are going to be bright, blue, and then on the outskirts are going to be red. So if you're looking for places where you can be in terms of more like-minded people, it's something that I'm still a little bit trying to figure out because as much as you want to be and believe, there are still people who don't always want to interact with all different nationalities and who may not agree. But at the same time, I think that in terms of your basic survival instincts and opportunities, I think you'll be better suited a lot of times being in some of these places that are further out from the city as opposed to being inside of the city, because as we see with hurricanes that happen in Florida, when something like this happens, to get out of town is next to impossible because of the traffic and all the different people trying to get out at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
just making sure, like you said, preparing in advance is something that's very important.
This message in a good way is heavy. I was on another gentleman's podcast this past week dealing with the DNC and stuff, and we was talking about that. One of the other hosts on there, guest that was on there, he had talked about some heavy things, but it's timely, it's right stuff that we need to talk about and address, like what we're talking about now.
Sure.
I feel like we're living. I feel like this for quite a while. We're living in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're seeing a script play out. We're seeing a strategy play out before us, and part of it for me is surreal because in all my upbringing and all the teachers and videos and movies I saw growing up about the end times, I never imagined, Richard, imagine seeing for myself the way things are being laid out and being broken down. So fast forward into this particular part here, you can expand as you would like. The failed assassination attempt on Trump and Trump's campaign since the assassination attempt. How do you see that? When you first heard about it, I don't know where you were at the time, but when you first heard about it and then leading up to this moment, how's the failed assassination attempt on impacted your view?
Definitely. I think when it went in the moment, right, and the picture that we saw of Trump raising his hand, I think that everyone in that moment and me, myself included, believed that there was something divine about it. You had people who were not believers who were saying that it's no way that it should happen. Like he should have, outside of him turning his head for a second, we were getting ready to watch the death of a former president on live television.
Yeah.
The fact that people can say a 20-year-old that never had any military training or anything of the like climbed on top of a roof and outsmarted the Secret Service, either that is massive all-time levels of incompetence, or it's something where they were alerted of his presence at 5:52. They 10 minutes later, Trump was able to go on stage. So 10 minutes after, you have, before that, you have a report. There's a man on a roof with a gun.
Right.
Nothing happens for 10 minutes. Everyone's kind of just like, hey, can I get a cup of coffee? 10 minutes after that, so 20 minutes after being alerted that there's a man on a roof with a gun, he lets off his first fires. So again, like, either it's obscene levels of incompetence, or there has to be something more to the story than what we're being told. So during that time period, Donald Trump is able to come through that, by the grace of God, his life is spared. He's able to have the momentum. You had the news even were even afraid of of attacking too much. They were kind of backing off. They were trying to look for ways on how they can poke holes in it, and there was just no room for it. Unfortunately, it looks like that a lot of the steam that was, if that had happened 2 weeks or so before the election, no doubt that would have been a landslide victory for President Trump. But I feel like the news, if, and I'm sure at some point we'll be able to figure it out. I think this is going to be, by far, is going to dwarf any spending in terms of news coverage and political intervention that we've ever seen. I think that this is a massive blitz of the media. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but I live here in suburban part of the city. And I went to the park the other day, and there is a sign up for Harris Waltz, who was there. And I'm like, they already know they have the inner city secured.
Uh-huh.
They're looking now to try to buffer and win parts of the suburbs. So if you normally know, right, the metro area is won by us, but the outskirts are turned red. If you can turn portions of that outskirt blue, all of
Uh-huh.
a sudden now the margin for victory reduces even further. And I think that's something that we're going to see if you're just out and about looking around. You're going to see more and more, not just in inner cities, but in terms of the suburbs, because they know that although President Trump's his policies are popular, there's still people who just can't bring themselves to voting for them. And instead of them having those people sit down and just sit down on the couch, which was going to happen with Joe Biden,
Mm-hmm.
Kamala Harris, they people just, there's something, kind of like spell casting almost. It seems like that people can't get over the fact that she's black and she's a woman. They can't see anything past that. Many people, and then you add on to that abortion, you add on to that all these different giveaways, with 70% of the population of the African American community being single, children raised out of wedlock. It's becoming natural that people are just, those people who were not going to vote. You just have a massive push right now of people who are looking to get on board, and if they can get just portions of that in, I think that is going to be a difficult day at the election box. But overall, in terms of this process, in terms of President Trump and his time frame, I look at it as, like you said, it was a divine moment, and it was an opportunity where the Lord looked up. Right, the Bible talks about in John 3. He says, as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so in the same way will the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes on him shall not perish but have everlasting life. I see that as a moment where the Lord opened the world's eyes and says, I'm gonna give you one last chance. Choose me. You know what I mean? So he's been lifted up. He used Trump as a divine moment to kind of lift up, and to call people to him once again. And the Biden, like, I think I said it at the time, I think that moment where they removed Biden, I think it was a declaration that we will never go back. We will never allow this to happen. And I think that people have fallen back asleep. Enough people have fallen back asleep where it went from being something where when it happened, I was thinking that it was going to be a 65 to 35 victory or something like that.
Mm,
At this point right now, like it's 50-50, it's 50-50 toss up right now.
man, and well articulated. That
Mhm.
is, I never imagined. I remember that moment when it happened. I was sitting here where I'm sitting at right now, and I was working on some other project for uploading another video,
Mhm.
some other ideas.
Sure.
And my television was on because I was planning on watching the Trump speech,
Mhm.
and I had it on mute.
Sure.
And so I would pick my head up a little bit every once and again
Mhm.
just to see if he had stepped up on the stage yet. So I'm doing my own thing. I looked up, he comes up, he's giving his preliminary. So I'm thinking his introduction stuff. I'm letting him do that. Boom, boom. So a few seconds later after that, I look up and I notice I see all these agents coming on up there. I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe Trump is doing something new, is getting close to the election. Maybe he's going to change up some of his style or change up he's doing a presentation, something. So I keep looking for a little bit doing this and looking. Then I see some of the guys come up with guns.
Wow.
So I said, okay, let me check this out. So I take it off mute. And lo and behold, they're saying that Trump was nearly assassinated.
Wow.
I said, on live TV?
On live TV. It's, we have a history with JFK and Robert Kennedy that this is not outside of the norm. It hasn't been, it's been 60 years plus since it has occurred, but it is, something that has been done. And, it's amazing that we had a chance to watch it be attempted and that the Lord prevented it from happening.
Right. I mean, everybody, excuse me, everybody, including Trump, as I said earlier, was noting that this was a divine moment that took place. The question is why? And so for people, you guys, I mean, everybody can go down there on rabbit holes if you want to, but like I said, I believe it's a divine moment because something significant is about to happen as well. But like you said, that's one more opportunity. And I agree. I really do that God is saying, I'm gonna give you another shot. This is it though, before the big one. Just like just like the tribulation. I believe that's the last ditch effort, so to speak. Well, no, it's not the last one. It's like two more chances. But that's gonna be one of the last ditch efforts where God has given people who did not get saved pre-tribulation to come to Christ. Now it's gonna be hard, it's gonna be hell on earth, it's gonna be difficult, all that kind of stuff. But you still will have a chance to spend eternity with God rather than without him. So I agree. Let's move to the next major event that took place after that. First of all, let me say this right quick. It's amazing. It's already been almost a month and a half since that event took place.
If it feels like time has been accelerated, it feels like every week there's just another thing that if it was 2 or 3, 5 years ago, we would have said this was the largest event of the year, and now it's just weekly things are just out of control.
Right. Exactly. Which goes to my next point. The following week, what many agree on is this: a soft coup took place. Kamala Harris, who did not, excuse me, 4 years prior, wasn't even able to secure any delegates when she ran for president. All of a sudden now is basically a shoe-in for the presidency. What do you think about that?
I think I think the powers that be, right? I think part of the push for legal immigration is realizing that there's a group of people that are waking up. I think the 2020 event, the pandemic, woke up a lot of people, where the African American community for the first time is not asking for tangibles in terms of what is it that they can receive, and that those who are in place now are realizing that you for 60 years you had 90% of a community vote for you. Like if I told you today was Saturday, we couldn't get 90% of people to agree on that it's Saturday. But they have had such a stronghold on the Black community vote that they've won that. I think that over the last 3, 4 years they've started to lose that control, and whether it not it actually materialized, but the words of it was happening at such a rapid rate that they were looking for other people to come in. I think right now what we're seeing happen is that those who were moving slowly in the dark, they realizing that the time is short and they don't want this movement to wake up too much. So they're pushing so much right now. And I think that's why they realize and they pushed Kamala Harris, and they're spending so much money in this particular moment, because they realize is that if Trump is given another 4 years, you see what he did with the Supreme Court, where he stacked it 6-3 in terms of conservatives. You see what they have done in terms of different regulations that allow the country to prosper. You had so many people wake up and realize, in terms of prison reform, in terms of funding HBCUs and things of that nature. There were so many different things that he was doing that they looked up and they were like, we have done a lot to suppress this nation. We can't allow them to roll back those things right now. And I think right now is that we're seeing is that Kamala Harris, whose father is a communist, who was raised in a communist. I think that we have gone from the space of having regular moderate Democrats, kind of running, to now it's mostly extreme, for the most. It's people who have, ideals that don't benefit the world at all, but who are looking for ways on how they can implement their particular idea. So definitely agree that there was a mini coup that happened. Joe Biden himself was basically pushed out, and yeah, we'll see exactly how it turns out here.
Well, see, I think it was a week before, a couple of weeks before that, before the Trump assassination attempt, Joe Biden, and I posted a short video on it. Joe Biden had said that it was right a couple of days after Kamala Harris got pushed in. I created a video where Joe Biden said, this was a few days earlier, that Friday, before that Sunday happened. He said, many people want me to leave, want me to drop out of the race, but I ain't going anywhere. I'm running for president, okay? And so then Sunday, there is a letter which was so conspicuous to me. But a letter was sent out saying that he was backing out of the race, and he did have to, I believe it was known. We heard Nancy Pelosi, the mobster. I'm going to do a video on that. Have you heard of the former mobster, Michael Francis?
I have not.
Okay. I may send it to you. But I'm going to do a video and some commentary on it. But he said what Nancy Pelosi said and did, the words she used concerning Joe Biden, concerning that issue, that event that took place, of him being pushed out, he said she sounds mobster-like. He said that her father was a mobster. That's wow. Exactly. I was surprised. I didn't know that. I didn't do a deep dive into her history. And so I was like, wow, I'm listening to this. I think it's like a 30 to 40 minute video on it. But he was talking about, he said, she sounds like a mobster. That's what mobster would say. That's what he was saying. I was like, oh no, I got to post this, because we're getting to see that some of our, if not all, some of our politicians do have that type of background. They don't have a business background like you was talking about, know anything about owning businesses and hiring employees, but they do. But some of are gangsters.
Yes.
And so, but when Joe was pushed out, I posted like a short video on that where Joe said this, and then a couple of days later, this is what the news media says, he was pushed out some type of letter. What do you think about the DNC? You can give a short version or a long version take on it, but mostly I'm looking at Kamala, because she supposedly was the star, or that was done for her. She closed out on that last Thursday night. One of the things, real quick, I'm gonna say this because you brought it up earlier. They had posted outside a balloon or a van for abortion.
Yes, I
posted a video. I don't know if I shared that with you or not, but I was very outraged at the article when I saw it, because I was like, how in the world Black folks want to have something to say? They have a big mouth when it comes to cops being involved. And there are times, legitimately, you need to call that out, okay?
Sure.
But not every time.
Yeah.
And then, but you won't have a big mouth when it comes to black on black crime, or one of the worst crimes that's taken place in our history is abortion. So what do you think about the DNC? Like, so you can give a long or short answer on that. But also for the Black community, because one of the things I posted out, and then I'm going to shut up, it also is this. I noticed that when when Kamala Harris was traveling around the country, you don't hear about that same a bus or a balloon being set up, that type of service being set up outside in the white community
Mhm.
Asian community,
Yeah.
Hindu community,
Yeah.
Hispanic or Mexican community, Latino community. You hear about none of that. But yet, when they set up in Chicago, one of the first things they market and promote is free baby murder. What do you think about
Yeah.
that?
I think that the fever pitch has been rising over the last few years about reparations. I think people
Mm-hmm.
like as you're watching Ukraine, as you're watching all these different nations, you're watching the illegal immigration. I think they said it's close to $50 billion have been spent so far on the migrants, and people are looking there like you won't give us as black people this money, but you'll write the same money you said you can't find and you don't know who it is. You're spreading out money, across this population. So I think, as you said, like I think that there's a lack overall of respect. First and foremost, because people are just going to get in line regardless. They're going to get in line. They're going to vote Democrat regardless. So it's like, why should I? Steve Harvey has been under fire recently because he said he was like, no one can win in terms of giving black people anything. You know what I mean? So you guys just need to get up and vote, and Kamala Harris in the background, nodding her head as well. The you would think that they would be said about the Asian community or something because the Asian community is, I think, 0.8% of the population. If it didn't matter to these particular individuals that of these situations, you would think that they would treat the Asian community any kind of way. But there is a high level of respect that is given for the Asian community.
Mm-hmm.
But for us as African Americans, where we're treated as not even second class, as third class citizens,
Yeah.
that you aren't able or allowed to ask for anything. And if you even decide to even ask for something, you're being told that you're being uppity or that's something of that nature that
Mm-hmm.
you're doing. So now, in terms of the Democratic National Convention, in terms of posting that contraceptive right outside of the building, it is a reminder and a sign that all of these people, the Margaret Thatchers and people like that, who were part of the process of installing Planned Parenthood, who
Mm-hmm.
decided that they wanted to have kind of an annihilation of a race. You're being reminded of it on a constant basis that the only thing we have to give for you is the extermination of your generation, and you guys are getting ready to be pushed out further and further. I passed by a few neighborhoods, and like you said, it's never in these conservative neighborhoods. It's always going to be in inner cities because that's who they want to get rid of. And as they're moving and as they're getting a new minority installed,
Yep.
as we've already been surpassed by the Latin community. I think they're 18%. We're down to like 13 or 14% in terms of the African Americans.
Mm-hmm.
The gender wars and things like this, all these different things. I think part of it as well, right? When you are Spanish, when you are Iranian, when you are Russian, whatever battles that you have as a community is covered because of your language. So as you're talking, you may be having a serious war in terms of your population, but
Mm-hmm.
most people cannot understand the war that is going on. You have to be translated, and then when you don't want to share with them, you make up something that you tell the people. The African American community is almost naked because they're any griefs or anything they have, it's being transposed live online and then being reinforced that these people are idiots or something like that. So I
Mm.
think it's a difficult circumstance right now because we as a people don't have our own language, and we're easily divided because there's people who are being paid to keep the people divided and keep them in place as well.
So you're talking about there's some people amongst our own who are being paid to keep everybody at bay.
Absolutely. Like think about it, right? There's all of these politicians. Charlemagne the God is one of them. Someone goes online to your podcast, and instead of them asking real questions, Charlemagne the God, he interviewed Joe Biden 4 years ago, and he told him with regular, I'm looking for something for my community,
Mm-hmm.
and a white guy on live television, a man who considers himself to be hood, to be well respected. He comes online and doesn't even hesitate. If you don't vote for me, you're not black. You have the man who wrote the '94 crime bill
Yeah.
telling you that you are not a black man if you do not support what is it that I support. You know what I mean? Like Hillary Clinton shows up with hot sauce. Kamala Harris shows up and she tells you about how she used to smoke weed. These are
Right.
conversations and things that they would never say. Joe Biden even said it to Charlemagne the God. He says that the vote for the Latin community is so much different. There's so much diversity of thought. He went online and he undressed you on your own podcast,
Right.
and then you continue to support him. So people, I read the comment section, and many people who are in the comment section don't support him. They call him an idiot for that, because he's embarrassing himself as he's bending over backwards for him. But even still, people still can't get out of their own way in terms of voting what's in their best interest.
And see, that's one of the saddest things. I remember seeing that clip, and I was like, if Trump had said the exact, and I would have a problem too if Trump
Yes,
said,
yes, yes,
if Trump had said that, because I know you've heard this a lot. People still to this day say Trump is racist.
yes.
Okay, I was on Twitter yesterday, and some folks, I put some stuff up, and somebody said, "Yeah, Trump's racist." I said, "Okay, prove it. Show me evidence." And then I sent them my clip, because I save a lot of these videos as just for these conversations. Instead of me going back and forth with people,
Yeah.
I save the receipts and let these folks tell you, in some cases, in their own words.
Exactly.
And so I said, "This is what Joe Biden." Oh, that's just so old. Oh, so it's okay. It's old. The exact reference you talking about, exact video you talking about. I posted that yesterday, and this person on the other line said, "Oh, that's old news." I said, "Oh, so it's old news when he says it." But I said, Trump had said the exact same thing. Y'all digging up all kinds of stuff on him. I said, "This is hypocrisy." I said, "It's wrong." I can get it. If Joe Biden had came on live and repented for that, I watched it under the bridge.
Sure.
But Joe does not truly apologize for the loss of his head, because he follows that up with something even dumber at times.
Exactly.
But it's not just him; it's others. So, but yeah, I was very disgusted with Charlemagne when he allowed that to happen. There was somebody who's Stephen A. I think he was on his podcast. Stephen A. I forget exactly, but I'm gonna say Stephen A. in this. Don't quote me on that though. But he was asked that question: "Why did you not address that when he?" "Oh, I didn't think of it like that. It wasn't that big." I said, "Really?" So if Trump says that, y'all were blasted
exactly
from morning till night.
Yeah.
And then when this joker gets on there and he says that this is you, and like you said, he addressed you on your own platform.
Your own platform.
If you came to the White House, it was on a neutral ground somewhere. Yeah. He came to your house, dissed you to your face, and you said you're gonna take it.
Yeah. And you get up in line, you leading the charge for people to go vote for you. It's an abusive relationship. It's
right.
It's a relationship where you get up and you hear the doctor what's his name, the black dude
Carson.
No, that's someone well respected. What's the other guy named, the black guy who talks a lot? He's always Doctor.
I'm trying to help you out. I don't.
Yeah, it'll come back to me here, but he's smooth talking black dude, a little bit overweight. He's always in the black community talking, but he talked about it. He said that like he was offered $10,000 to come and to support Kamala Harris. I'm not sure.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, sure. So I'll go ahead. I'm sure you'll bring it up here in just a moment. But he asked Steve Harvey. He's like, if I'm offered 10,000, what did they offer you? And I think a lot of these people, you're hearing a lot of people on TikTok.
Umar Johnson.
Dr. Umar Johnson.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to a lot of what he says.
I don't subscribe, but you're hearing these words. Him, Dr. Boyce Watkins, all these different. They are not. They have their own thoughts, but they're saying the general idea. Why are we supporting people who do not support or offer us anything? That's the consensus that are coming from these people. And although you may disagree with their lifestyles, you may disagree with their choice of their message, they're saying something that naturally benefits you. How is what you're doing going to benefit you and your community? And they're being told to basically shut up and be quiet. Between Candace Owens, you have Officer Tatum, Anthony Brian Logan, they're all saying the same thing. Why are you supporting a people who do not support us? And the Democratic Party has again and again showed that they're not for the African American community. And if the Kamala Harris is installed, I think it's going to be the overall, it's going to be a very big detriment. I think that we heard a lot about illegal immigration, and all of a sudden, as the fever pitch became too loud. They began quieting it down a little bit. But I think once this election passes and she's able to be installed, I think that we're going to see numbers like we've never seen before crossing into this nation.
Dude, did you happen to hear the other day? I don't know where this was. I just saw this snippet on the X. This group of black men was sitting at this, I don't know, it's an open forum table. And one of the guys said, we're going to behave or be good until after the election. Then we're going to go back to acting a fool or something to that nature. He said, if somebody recorded, I was like, are you serious? They're telling you the game plan. They say, we're going to be good leading up to the election. But after that, we're going to go back to our true selves.
Yeah. So basically, it seems like what is happening, right, is that you saw that with Obama, you saw it with Biden. There's a plan of almost 3 years of implementation of their policy, and then 1 year of acting like they like it didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like it's basically saying that like the main message of the Democratic Party is don't believe what your eyes are seeing. That's essentially what their policy is. Don't believe what your eyes are seeing, and we're seeing it little by little. Is that like all of these things that are being implemented? We talked about it previously about the land. The rules are being implemented harshly, right? So there was a law that was passed recently that said that farmers were not allowed to use a certain amount of water in terms of benefiting their land. And all of these people who are living out on these farmlands are now selling their property. Bill Gates is the largest landowner in America. And I think it was, don't quote me on this, but I think he just recently bought Bragg's apple cider vinegar, which does a great thing in terms of correcting. Yeah. So I have to look that up to verify, but I do believe that he has purchased the company. So all of the things that are used to naturally help to heal our bodies are being pushed away. The trades that were naturally good for people to make money were removed from schools, and it, like every step that promotes self-sustainability is being removed. And then slowly and surely, the government is looking to purchase and to move into those particular areas. So all these things, whether it's price fixing or all these things, like there's a lot of change that will be coming if there is a Kamala Harris presidential term here coming.
Did you hear about Agenda 2030?
Agenda 2030, you own nothing, and then you'd be happy.
Yeah,
it's funny because like it's something that is naturally I believe that there's a push. You hear about Klaus Schwab, and all these different things. I'm not even sure if I say his name right. Klaus. Yeah,
you had it right the first time. Schwab.
Yeah, Klaus Schwab. All these things are being pushed. Justin Trudeau in Canada, he's globalist as well. France and Macron. All these things are being pushed right now, but at the same time, the nature of human beings is to be lazy. Do you have people who lived in like we talk about it now, right? My family, I have family members who live in parts of the South, and they've been there for forever. And by the grace of God, just before prices took off, right, they bought their house for $290,000. A year and a half later, it doubled in value. But you have a lot of people who are living life and they're not taking steps to implement themselves. They're not purchasing land. They're not doing anything that will help to be a hedge against inflation that is coming.
Yeah.
And like you said, like in that time period, when you are renting, and now all of a sudden you now wake up and say, "Hey, it's time for me to purchase." Even if you're able to save money, you're able to save $50,000. The price and appreciation that's going to be coming in a wave is going to be advancing so quickly that regardless of how much money you have, it's not going to be possible for the most part of you being able to acquire anything. There are people who were around in California in the 80s and 90s where houses were $200,000. Those people didn't buy, and now they're paying $4,000 or $5,000 a month for apartments, in that space right now. So I think it's very similar. If this group is elected, that will be something that we will see. It might not get to $1 million, but I think that places that were once 200,000 will become 500,000. Places that were 500,000 will become $1 million.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Okay, that's in a era if Kamala wins. What do you think happens if Trump wins?
If Trump wins, so if Trump wins, I think that there's a few things, right? So the big thing is you're going to have a releasing of oil and energy. From there, you're going to have rules and things that will be put in place that will block off the southern border.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have situations. I think the housing situation is going to be difficult regardless because it takes a year to build a house. Like there's no shortcuts to producing a home. I think that things will be reduced and maybe there may be some 3D printing of homes where they're made more manufacturing. I think that is a good answer and a means, right? That you create like these mini cities outside of the metro areas, and then
Mm-hmm.
you build out in those areas, manufactured home communities. A lot of the manufactured homes right now, they look like stick built homes. They look very, very nice. And it allowing people to kind of move into those places. So these are kind of the ideas and the ingenuity that's needed to get us out of the situation. But it's a matter of if you're having the right people in those places. And if Trump is elected, I could see a situation where, it's still gonna be a lot of money printing, but it's going to be effective money printing. Like if Democrats are elected, it's going to go into a lot of social services that are not productive dollars. If Trump is elected, it's going to be pushed into businesses that will produce things that will help to drive down the cost of living in these particular situations. So it's either way, money is going to be spent, but it's a matter of where that money is spent and
Mm-hmm.
whether or not it will be helped to use to benefit the people in general, or whether or not be.
But that would be interesting because, I mean, there's a lot of hope and build up that if Trump does win, that there's going to be a transformation. There's going to be a continuation from his first term,
Mhm.
but it's going to be even better off in his second term. Obviously, I believe he's going to definitely still face some backlash, because they attacked him the first time. So if he wins again, I mean, Jamie Raskin, I don't know if you heard the clip, but he was, I don't know, he was doing some type of speech or with the number of maybe a couple of other people on the channel on that forum. But he had said if Trump does win January 6th, people need to, he's talking about January 6th, 2025,
Mhm.
people are going to need they're going to have some armed guard or someone to protect them. And it's
Mhm.
going to be another, and he was basically calling for people to be for there to be civil war. That's what he was talking about. I was like, did he actually say that and it got out? I mean, because it's what do you think about that?
I think it's generally a double standard. I mean, like I remember Maxine Waters during the 2020 about how they're saying that you need to be violence in the streets, and the
I have
mayor
all those videos saved too, by the way.
the mayor of Seattle talking about how that there's a summer of love in Seattle where they had the Chaz Chop Zone. The things that are allowed to be spoken by the left are things that would be completely but would get you in thought police jail if you're said by the people on the right. So I,
100%.
like you said, like it's a hope, and if Trump is elected, I think the simplest way of reducing that and what's going to happen, some of those things, some of the value of things of people who do own homes will moderate some
Mm-hmm.
as those things are built. But definitely, I think the simplest way is having mass production of homes in factories in terms of manufacturing home. I think people at this point right now I think people would be okay. Like, hey, listen, we're going to build massive communities. You're all going to have a home, right? And we're going to sell it for $180,000. Will apply financing for it and everything. Would you be fine with that? I think most people would at this point right now would agree. Say, you know what, I'm happy to pay this particular amount, and I'll have my home. So be it. But it's a issue in NIMBY, not in my backyard. Is what they call it. But a lot of people just aren't. It benefits asset owners to not build. So Wall Street, all these different people who have purchased and who have bought these rent to own communities,
Mm-hmm.
it is in their best interest to not allow those things to happen, and that's part of the reason why we're seeing such a harsh push against Donald Trump, because if he is elected, that 2030 vision is not going to be implemented. And as the prosperity continues in America, it ripples throughout the rest of the world. As American production and American prosperity happens here, you have people buying things from Europe, you have people buying things from Africa, buying things from Asia, and we'll have a reduction of issues there. But if Kamala wins, and that vision is being able to be progressed, then all of a sudden the dollars that would have flown, that would have transitioned into those countries, are no longer doing so.
Man, great answer, dude.